meeting that's called actually to discuss SPLOST. It's in accordance with OCGA 48-8-111A. Is to discuss possible projects for inclusion in a special local option sales tax referendum being considered for November the 3rd, 2009. And we may also discuss tonight the apportionment of sales tax proceeds in relationship to that agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I think that we probably need to discuss tonight is whether or not the renewal of the SPLOST, the Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, is something that we can agree on that either needs to be done or does not need to be done. So the first topic for discussion tonight is that item in itself, is do we or do we not wish to renew the SPLOST that will expire March 31st, correct? March 31st of 2010. The purpose for meeting tonight, in accordance with the code, we must have a series of meetings if we intend to ask the populace to vote for a SPLOST to make it contiguous with the one that we are now under, so that we would move directly from the SPLOST that we're under now into the next SPLOST and lose no momentum in the collection. In other words, we wouldn't mess up all the businesses who are now collecting it by stopping and restarting. So I would ask the mayors on behalf of their respective jurisdictions what your concern or what your feelings is with regard to actual renewal of the SPLOST. And Mr. Rewalt, since you are looking directly at me, I will ask you first.
I think SPLOST is probably required, but I think the chances of the public voting for it in this environment is slim.
Let me see if I can interpret that. Is Tyrone in favor of renewing the SPLOST or putting it on the ballot and asking the people for their opinion?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Steve.
Yeah, as we know, with the transportation projects being done in the county under construction and planned for the future, sufficient revenue cannot be raised without having a dedicated transportation spot in Fayette County. To broaden the opinion, I have no problems whatsoever with the proposal going forward, and we'll let our communities and the county, our voters, our electorate decide whether they see a benefit to it or not. In reality, because of the economy, as the mayor mentioned, it becomes actually much more significant. As you probably know, or most people know, that most of our transportation projects and grants from the state and the federal government are 80-20 grants, 20% matching equivalent. Chairman Smith and I both serve on the Atlanta Regional Commission and are active in the state capitol. We recognize that going forward, if local communities do not have dedicated transportation funds, the chance of them getting 100% participation by the Federal Highway Administration and by the GDOT are very slim. So if we want to address our transportation needs going forward, we have to have money in the pot to garner whatever support we can from the feds and the state. That's just the reality of the day.
Thank you. Mr. Larson.
Yes, Peachtree City City Council is united on one front, and that is that we want to see this put on the ballot for a vote. We believe it should be continued, and we hope the voters would support that. But we're willing to accept whatever the voters decide on this. But echo everything Ken just said. We must have the funds to continue forward with the transportation projects that are needed in this county. I think at the state level, it's going to be getting a statewide transportation plan or even a regional transportation plan is an uphill battle. In Fayette County, you can take care of yourself. And we fully support SPLOST and hope that the citizens will support it also. The value is significant.
One of the issues that we have had in discussions among the commissioners has revolved around what Mr. Leroy brought up earlier, and that is the state of the economy and the effect it would have on the population to have an extended SPLOST or renewal, if you will. And certainly we understand that a lot of people are in financial doldrums, whether it be the loss of their investment value or whether it be loss of jobs in themselves. We realize that that is an issue, but nonetheless, we find ourselves in a position that we all have to face that previous to this point, we have looked at the SPLOST funds that have been collected, at least from the county's perspective. We have looked at those as being a matching pot, if you will, for state and federal grant funds. As many of you have seen and heard in the news media, you realize that today the state and federal grant funds are almost a thing of the past. While there are still some funds available, the time frame under which we would get some of those grants makes it very difficult for us to get anything accomplished in a reasonably close time frame. One of the things that decisions that the county made early on, a couple of years ago actually, was to begin looking at what is the effect of delaying construction on the cost of construction and compare that to the actual matching funds that we would receive, factoring in the effect on the community of increased traffic. And we decided right quick that we could save enough money by speeding up the projects that the lack of matching funds available made it such that in order to try to attack some of the traffic problems that were in the transportation plan going back as far as the 1970s, it was necessary for us to take the lead and actually use funds to accomplish what we could as quickly as we could, taking advantage of the reduced construction costs. So with that in mind, I think we have a consensus of opinion that we probably should let the voters decide whether or not the merits of the SPLOST are such that they would vote for renewing or extending the SPLOST, and if the projects that we determine are worthwhile enough for them to vote for. So I think the question that we have answered is that there is a unified front for the renewal of the SPLOST. It brings us actually to question number 2. Oh, Mr. Butler.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think there'll be any problem with Brooks when we have that on.
I had a conversation with Mr. Butler at dinner. He told me about what he called.
We had exotic dinner tonight. We went to Chick-fil-A. So
Yeah, we did. I also need to mention,
sorry.
I also need to mention that the town of Woolsey was invited tonight, but they were unable to rearrange their schedule. Their regular meeting night is tonight, so there are no representatives of Woolsey here tonight.